Welcome to the Reconstruction Journal with your hostess, Juliana Coles. The first step in the Reconstruction Journal is finding your book. So what I want to talk about first is altered books. Essentially, the Reconstructed Journal is an altered book. We're taking a book that pre-exists, that's already been published as something else, and we're going to remove the pages and reconstruct it. I have a few examples here of just altering a book, and any of these would be fine for our Reconstructed Journal. One of the things about altering a book that's been a little bit of a challenge, no, a lot of a challenge for me and a struggle is when I'm altering a book, I get distracted by the images that are already there. I want to utilize them, and I find myself getting stuck, and then I have to turn the page. Oh, not that one. I don't know what to do with that yet. Not that one. This particular book is from a series of 4 small books on the moon, and this one was about the werewolf. And the cool thing about it is it had black pages. You can see here that it had black pages. So any book that has text is going to be, in terms of altering a book, it's easier because you're not attached. It's just words. And this will be fine for our process as well. When we reconstruct our journals, we're actually going to remove all of the pages and maybe leave about this much, let's say an inch. So when we talk about this center, it may or may not matter. This reconstructed journal that you're going to create may be an artist's book. Once you reinsert your pages, you might think, wow, this is cool, I'm done. And maybe that's all you're going to do. I've had plenty of students who've done that, and it's an amazing book as is. If you're like me, you're going to be decorating it, which means you're going to lose all of that because I work all the way across. So essentially this center doesn't matter to me. So I'm going to be talking about some different books here. Maybe you want to work with a theme. The book, The Darkness, could be your theme. Maybe it's like an Indiana Jones kind of adventure book. Maybe you're going to alter or reconstruct your grandmother's cookbook. So you could work within a theme, or you could just grab any old book. So let's talk about a few more. I also have a series of these children's books that I really enjoy. I love the size. That's something you want to think about too when you pick it up. How does it feel? Is it square? Is it rectangle? Is it long this way? All of these things are going to affect how you work in them, and each book will require something different of you, and each book is going to have its own personality. So this one's relatively thin, and I like that because there are less pages and it's easier for me to finish. I am in the process now of altering this one, and here we can see I'm attached to this image, and I keep coming to this page and moving on. I really love this book, and I love the images, so I'm having a hard time just completing it. I love in the kids' books, how the text is large. I like working with that, and I love the theme of piracy, the sea. It's a great metaphor for me. So I have a few of these different history books for kids, which I really enjoy. This one I'm also working in now. I get a lot of my books from the main library public sale that they have every 6 months. So this one I'm altering. And you can see, here's this strip that we were talking about, that center that we're going to keep. So this book is an altered book and partially a reconstructed book. So I've got different pages that I've inserted here. And these were, like this one was a page, just a figure drawing that I added in. And I added, I'm going to add some postcards. I've got other things like here, this was actually a page from another journal. I like the tab, and I inserted that. So that's something for you to think about as we move along. We're actually going to be making our pages from scraps and remnants, but there's no reason why you can't, every few pages, add something else like a folder or something with a tab, something that you made but didn't really know what to do with, and you want to put that in. And it can also be more personal. You can add photographs, scrapbook items. So here's another book that I'm altering. And one of the things about this book, and you'll see as you get working, this is falling off, this spine is breaking. That's just going to happen. We're going to do some things to protect the spine, but it's probably not going to work. No book is meant, like when we work in these, they're open. No book is really meant to be that way. And so every time we're pressing down, we're damaging that spine, and you'll just have to get used to that. So that's just another altered book. Again, the size, it appeals to me. The paper appeals to me. Those are why I make some of the choices that I make. So now we're going to look at some of my reconstructed journals, and these are newer books. Those books are old, but I'm still working on them. Some of them are new. This one's pretty old. And this one, I didn't put this in as a reconstructed page. I put this in afterwards, and I just hinged it in. We'll talk more about that later. So that's something you can do too. As you make the project, don't worry about perfecting it. Don't worry about making it exact, because you can always add to it and change it later. You can add tabs, which I love to do. This is another one I just hinged in, but I could have done it as a reconstructed page. I love like file folders. This was from a cookbook, so I inserted that later. And when I do the reconstructed journal in my classes, we do it as a collaborative effort. We're team builders, and we pass the pages along, and we all have to work on them at once. You know, I might add a scrap, somebody else will add a scrap, and in the end we cut down all the pages and insert them. So this page, somebody had put this weird plastic stuff and stapled it, and I love that in my page. That's not something I would ever do in my work. So that's the exciting part of working in a group, that you're challenged to incorporate elements that you wouldn't normally utilize. So that's what's really fun about working in a group. But what's going to be great for us in this project is that we can be more intentional. We can be more specific about how we do this. When I teach this workshop, it's a 3-hour class, and we take the book apart and put it back together in 3 hours. In this project, we're going to take our time, and we're going to make some really amazing books. Here's another one of those moon books. Again, I like having a little book, and I like having bigger books, so that, you know, I can just work back and forth. So the pages that you see here, these were made in that team effort, and they're just layered and taped and glued and stapled and sewn. Some of these things are sewn, and then we make a really big sheet of paper, and then we take that paper and cut it down. And so that's what makes these great pages. Like this one has a hole in it, and I wasn't trying to be careful about how I inserted it, but you guys can. You can be more patient about it, but I also encourage you to just do it and solve the problem later. Like, not be attached to making each page fit perfectly, but to just try to move along as quickly as possible. So so we're gonna so seems like a contrast. We're gonna take our time. We're gonna move as quickly as possible. So we want to try to balance that out, like the fast speed non-attachment with, oh, I can be more thoughtful. So it's a challenge of trying to do both in this project. So we'll see how that works later on. So here's a book. This is a class that I taught many years ago called the Diarist Sectional. And I'm not going to go into it here, but if you can see on the side, see how the book is slanted? The spine has become slanted. And that's just sometimes what happens with certain books. It's hard to know in advance when that happens or why, but the pages sort of fit funny. So this book was more like each page was a postcard, like a little handmade postcard, but we made our pages the same way we do in this workshop with the reconstructed pages. So this is actually a class I taught like 20 years ago. So this is, the Reconstructed Journal has been on my mind for a long time. And here's one that I started to make and then kind of stopped. So you can see, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be cutting them all down. And I started to insert some of my pages. One of the things here in this book, you can see where it's stapled and it's glued and it's sewn. So the problem with this book is that it doesn't really open all the way because it's also sewn in the middle, not just here. And I think I just decided with this book I didn't really want to work in it, even though the cover says pirate. So this one, who knows, maybe I'll do something else with it, but right now it's on hold. Here's another little book I made. This is a kid's book, and you can see when a spine has this thickness here, you know it's not just sewn on the edge, it's cut in a little bit, which means it's not going to lay flat. It's always going to have this edge, which makes it hard to work in because the pages are always going to pop out. And so you can pick the correct book. I'm going to show you guys some more samples of which books not to pick. But in the end, you have to pick the book that speaks to you, that's choosing you, that you love. And then you'll just make it work. Because I have plenty of books, you know, like this one that I worked in, that this was a mess. And I still love them. I love working on them. So this book has maybe, you know, 8 pages, which is great because it just means I can finish it sooner. These little kids' books are great. Here's another one of these kids' history books, and this one I wanted to share because this one I'm doing a little bit of both. I'm inserting old pages, like this one is the Andrew Jackson book, and I inserted some of the pages from the Christopher Columbus book into my center here. I also have some of my reconstructed pages in here. So I'm working a little bit back and forth in this book. I added some old artwork in here, some other things, and I still have a few more pages to insert. This page I must have done as a sample, and it's a really old kids book, and it's so fragile, this page. It's not really that great, especially for the end page, but again, you could cover it in clear tape. I mean, there's so many ways to solve the problem of the page. And again, we'll talk more about that when we actually get into making the book.